Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you listen to me? Is my sound all right? Am I perfectly audible? Let us begin our today's discussion. See, whenever I make the session or I start the session few minutes late, just remember I'm having tea or coffee. So, few minutes delay, you shouldn't mind it, okay? Because I need energy to teach, right? Now, today is 4th of August. You're watching the Indian Express analysis and this is StudyIQ IS English channel. So, let us start our today's discussion with the important articles that we are going to cover. We'll start our today's discussion by understanding India-Middle East Economic Corridor. India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, as the name suggests, is an economic corridor that was proposed by India to connect different continents, that is West Asia as well as Europe. Right, and this can be seen as India's direct reply to Belt and Road Initiative of China. So this is a Middle East economic corridor and we are going to understand who all or which all nations are part of it, and we'll also try to solve a question that has appeared not on this topic but a very related topic this year itself. Now this is relevant majorly from GS paper 2 and GS paper 3 syllabus, so we are going to cover this article in great detail. In the second article, we are going to cover India's bunker buster missile. Now, last month, there was this very big development that US, using its B-2 bomber aircraft, dropped a massive bomb to destroy one of the important nuclear sites in Iran. Now, that bomb is called as GBU-57 or Massive Ordnance Penetrator, and as the name suggests, those bombs are designed to bust bunkers. Therefore, these are called as bunker buster missiles. Now, you have to understand India as a growing country with rivals near to its western as well as northern borders, we also need that kind of a resource to destroy our enemy bunkers. So that is why India is going to modify one of its existing missiles and to make it a bunker buster missile. So that we are going to understand in our today's discussion. Why such a development becomes important, what are the challenges that India is facing in making such kind of bomb systems, that all are important from our exams perspective, right? So this is directly linked with GS paper 3 syllabus and hence a very important article from our exams perspective. Article 3rd and 4th, both of them relate to very important laws that have been brought by Indian Parliament. Therefore, we'll take a detailed discussion on each of these two articles. That is why I'm only going to cover 4 articles today. But rest assured, these last 2 articles are very detailed. So we are going to cover first Anti-defection law and then we are going to cover Prevention of Money Laundering Act of 2002. Both of them are relevant from GS paper 2 and PMLA is also relevant from GS paper 3 perspective, because if you look at the syllabus, money laundering and prevention of money laundering is an important part of security syllabus. And which body is responsible for curbing the instances of money laundering? This is the Enforcement Directorate. So obviously PMLA stays in news for a long period of time, and that is why we are going to understand in great detail different important provisions of the PMLA Act 2002. These are the 4 articles we are going to understand in detail. Good morning all of you. How was your weekend, guys? Please let me know in the comments quickly. Bandana, good morning. Saujanya, good morning. Amar, good morning. Hi Amar. Amar always says hi. Kharbudon, AC, Mamim, Geeta, Anandu, Happy, Kanchan, Arya, Yashi, Santwana, Mahamim, Gaurav, Kalai Raghavan. Journey of an aspirant. Journey of an aspirant is Benji, right? Venkat, Sipra, Jui, Anshu, Dheeraj, Sasmita, Yashpal, Stuti, Kharbudon, Sipra. I'm good, Sipra. How are you? Good morning, Govind, Venkat, good. Haseen Wadia. Okay, good morning, Haseen Wadia. Weekend was all good. Okay. Rain and with the books as usual. Okay. Well, I was also sitting with the books, not because I was enjoying the rain, but because I had to prepare for the morning lectures. In our today's morning lecture in economy, we were discussing in detail how net demand and time liabilities are calculated. And you understand CRR as per the RBI's website is mentioned as a percentage of net demand and time liabilities. So before you go and sit in the exam, you'll also have to understand what net demand and time liabilities means, and I covered in great detail in our today's lecture. Okay, Govind, you're planning to buy a course in December. Okay, do let me know if you face any problem. Okay, Vittal, good morning. So how is the weather at your place, all of you? Is it raining? Is it dry? Johar, Anuj? So let us begin our today's discussion. You can in the meantime let me know in the comments how's the weather at your place, and you can download the notes after this session ends on this particular Telegram channel ATS Live. Okay, humid, yes, it was very humid also in Delhi today in the morning. Rainy Bandana. Okay. Now let us start with this first article. I have taken this article from the Hindu because I couldn't locate it in the Indian Express. It was mentioned, and this advisor to the US government, Ricky Gill, has come to Delhi for IMEC conference. Right, so this is the article why we are discussing it. His visit becomes important, but what is more important is the India Middle East Economic Corridor, IMEC. So let us understand what this corridor is all about, which all countries are covered up, and what is the original rationale in bringing this kind of a corridor. Now, as the name suggests, India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor, it wants to connect India with the Middle East as well as Europe. It will start from Mumbai and Mundra port in Gujarat, and it will stretch to UAE, Saudi Arabia in the Middle East. Then it will also cover Israel, and then ultimately to Greece, where we would reach the Europe continent. So this is how the India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor, which will consist of sea as well as rail route, will be covered in detail. Now, the purpose of this corridor is to initiate a strategic connectivity initiative, which is aimed at not just increase trade, but also construct important infrastructure responsible for the trade, which means this corridor would want to integrate ports, railways, roads, pipelines, as well as seaport. Now, in addition to that, it comes to be backed by Partnership of Global Infrastructure and Investment, PGII, which is a US government initiative to fund infrastructure in developing nations. So, using the funds which will be provided by this institution, we will construct a corridor and utilize the existing modes of transport to enhance trade between all these countries, right? Now, the announcement of this corridor was made during the time of G20 summit when it was held in Delhi in 2023, and this led to signing of memorandum of understanding between different countries. It included European Union, India, US, Saudi, UAE, France, Germany and Italy, right? And this corridor can be divided into two different portions: Eastern Corridor, which links India to Arabian Gulf and ultimately to UAE, and then Northern Corridor, which will connect Arabian Gulf with Europe, right? So these are two sea corridors which will connect these two continents. Similarly, this key transportation links include sea route from Mumbai and Mundra to UAE, rail link from UAE to Saudi to Jordan to Israel's Haifa port. Haifa port also happens to be managed by Adani Group. Similarly, Mundra port also happens to be managed by Adani Group. Similarly, sea route will take from Haifa in Israel to Greece port, further connecting India with Middle East and with Europe, right? So these are the key transportation links that you have to understand, and this can be directly seen as an India's alternative to Belt and Road Initiative of China. What are the problems of Belt and Road Initiative of China? Do let me know in the comment section quickly. Yes, Bandana, sorry for the disturbance. Go ahead. Yes, this course will cover everything, Govind. I hope you're talking about the P2I Foundation course, right? Okay, Yashpal, you're from Mundra. Is it in Kandla district? Good morning, Mamta. Which topics you are unable to cover? Yes, one of the challenges of BRI was debt trap. What is BLO, Gaurav? See what China used to do, it used to construct important projects in other countries, and whenever these countries used to fail to repay back the loan, China used to demand the possession of those resources. For example, Hambantota port in Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka took loan from China, constructed this very big port, and when they were unable to repay back the loan, China demanded the possession of that port, right? So this is how China functions, and this is called as debt trap diplomacy. So all the other countries except China, they are looking to provide an alternative to the company so that they are not stuck with the debt trap with respect to China. Well, yes, BRI passes through POK. That is one of the key instances why India is opposing BRI. Because POK is sovereign Indian territory, and when any other project is passing through sovereign Indian territory without the permission of India, why would India sign that? Balochistan Liberation Organization, yes. So that are the challenges faced by BRI. That is why all the other countries, including India, are trying to provide an alternative. Now, this will also create supplementary infrastructure. For example, an integrated transportation system will be laid down, which will include railways, roadways, and shipping system. Additional structure for transmission of electricity using electricity grids, laying down of optical fiber cable for digital and internet connectivity, establishing pipelines to transport hydrogen gas. Why are they establishing transport hydrogen gas and not fossil fuels? Any idea? Any idea why hydrogen gas? Because as we go forward, green hydrogen would be a better alternative to the fossil fuels because of its use of renewable energy in manufacturing hydrogen and very less emission as far as burning of hydrogen is concerned. So that is why going forward, the countries would also lay down pipelines to transport hydrogen gas. Understood? Similarly, the objectives of this corridor is to boost trade and logistics, saying that the cost of transportation would reduce and the time taken to transport the goods reduces. Similarly, it strengthens regional supply chain. All of these countries won't be dependent on countries like China, rather than they can trade among themselves. Similarly, it fosters economic and political cooperation. You can see how economic cooperation leads to better political cooperation. If the economic relations between two countries get better, obviously it will translate to better human to human as well as political to political cooperation, and it will also promote employment in the respective countries. And in addition to that, the countries are also going to reduce their emissions of greenhouse gases. Understood? So all of these are goals with respect to India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. Now, a question appeared in 2025 on International North-South Transport Corridor. So, please let me know the correct answer, and if such questions can appear in exam in 2025, similarly questions on IMEC can also appear. That is why I have discussed this article in detail. Now, quickly let me know the correct answer to this question. Yes, option A is the right answer. Good. Sipra, Amar, Shushmita. अमर एग्जाम में सही करके आए थे, गलत करके आए थे इसको? ऋषि, मामीम, बेंजीर, खारबुदोन, यशपाल, शश्मिता, गौरव, कंचन, वित्तल, आर्या, all of you are right. Now solve this question. Let me set up the screen first. सही किया, good. Yes, option B is right here. All of you are correct. Now another question. Yes, all of you are right. Option B. वो सब आसान थे, अब टफ वाला करो. Well, the initiative is supported under the Belt and Road framework spearheaded by China. This obviously becomes incorrect. So why would you need to establish the correctness of first and second when the third obviously is incorrect and you have to identify correct statements. So option A is right. Understood why? This is right, you but don't have to bother about them because third obviously is incorrect. Now let us move to the next article. This is a very important article. I was reading it last night and I enjoyed it so much. So I thought I should let you know guys also. Okay. Now this article from Times of India Plus. Yes, I have a membership, so that is why I am covering these articles. This is very important from our exam. Why India's new bunker buster missile has rattled our dear neighbor Pakistan. Any idea? Now India is developing a new bunker buster missile which is basically a modification of Agni 5th ICBM, right? So India is going to modify this Agni 5 missile. Agni 5 missile basically was meant to carry nuclear warhead. So India is saying that instead of nuclear warhead, why we fit in massive amounts of explosive as much as 7,500 kilograms of conventional explosive and use it to bomb deep bunkers of our enemies including Pakistan. So that is why it has raised alarm bells in Pakistan because they will be worried now because their Kirana Hills, their other important installations which they have hidden from India, now India can actually destroy them using one of its flagship grade Agni 5 missile. Now I told you beforehand, when it comes to development of missiles, now India is a superpower. Smaller countries like Turkey, smaller countries like Pakistan, they can't mess with us because we have the ability to hit them directly. Now, government officially claims the range of Agni 5 missile is 5,000 kilometers, but based on design, many defense experts are of the opinion that it can actually hit targets as far as 10 to 11,000 kilometers. But government for very purposes has said that we can only hit 5,000 kilometers targets using the Agni 5 missile. Now let us understand why did government of India or why did DRDO is making such a bunker buster missile. The answer is GBU-57 of United States. Now few weeks back, US used this massive bomb and dropped it on Fordo nuclear facility of Iran, which is hundreds of meters deep inside a hill mountain. So conventional bombs won't be able to destroy that target. So US specifically used this particular bomb, which are bunker buster bombs. So let us first understand how do bunker buster bombs work, and then only we'll understand why isn't India making these kind of bombs, or why is India modifying one of its missile to do such a important work, right? Now first you have to understand this GBU-57 is also called as MOP, Massive Ordnance Penetrator or Bunker Buster Bombs. This bomb measures more than 20 feet in length and 31.5 inches in diameter, and it weighs more than 13 tons or more than 13,000 kilograms. Now the purpose why which the bomb was made was to bust the bunkers, which is it carries a type of munition which is able to attack deeply buried facilities and hardened bunkers and tunnels and effectively destroy those targets which are otherwise very well protected. Now this MOP GBU-57 is widely known as most powerful non-nuclear weapon in existence. Understood? Now the special aspect about this bunker bombs that it can penetrate targets up to 60 meters below the earth, and therefore it carries the warhead inside a special high performance steel alloy casing. So when you provide such a hardened casing to the bomb, it allows the bomb to penetrate the targets deep, and only when it has reached the target, then only it will explode, therefore destroying everything. So it is enabled to carry large amount of explosives while maintaining the integrity of the case in case of its initial impact. So that is why we enclose the explosive inside a highly hardened cage. This is what this bomb is. Now what you have to understand, I told you this bomb weighs more than 13,000 kilograms. So the only method through which you can drop these bombs is a special kind of an aircraft, B-2 bomber aircraft, which the United States had. And this bomb reaches its target once it is dropped by the aircraft using GPS, and once it hits the target, it does not detonate it right there. It goes deep and then it detonates. Right? So this is how GBU-57 works. Understood? Now what you need to understand about GBU-57, that it was developed specifically by United States after it experiences in the Iraq and Afghanistan war, because US had similar bunker busters but smaller in size, and therefore when it used them in these Iraq and Afghanistan war, it was not able to destroy deep underground targets. So that is why Air Force Research Laboratory of United States, along with a private company Boeing, who also manufactures many aircrafts, they developed this weapon, and the latest airstrike in Fordo in Iran marks the first known instances how these MOP was used in combat. Understood? And as this bomb is very heavy, it was been able to carry only by using the special B-2 bomber Spirit aircrafts. Understand? Now what you have to understand, why is India modifying one of its missile and not developing a such GBU bomb? The answer is India does not have a specific bomber aircraft which can carry a payload of as much as 13,000 kilograms in weight. For example, India has Rafales, India has Sukhoi 30 MKIs, but those aircrafts will only be able to carry about 7 to 10,000 kilograms worth of bombs, whereas these bombs are much larger in size, therefore you need special aircrafts. So only Russia, only China, only US has the kind of ability. So we have to use the resources which is at our disposal to effectively destroy enemy targets. And what is the best resource at the disposal with India? It is missiles. Specifically, case in point, it is Agni 5 missile. So that is why DRDO, it is modifying the Agni 5 missile to target hardened underground military installations, command bunkers, nuclear silos, which are otherwise difficult to destroy in current circumstances, both on LOC and LAC. Understand? Similarly, India does not have this kind of an aircraft, which first of all is a massive aircraft. It can carry large amount of bombs, and also it is a stealth aircraft. Right? So the benefit of stealth aircraft, that it can enter into enemy areas without getting detected by the radar system. So therefore India does not have this kind of ability. Therefore India is looking to modify one of its Agni missiles. Now the significance of building such kind of a weapon system for India is that it enables India to undertake deep penetration strike without having to use nuclear weapons. Not using nuclear weapons is a very big advantage that any country has. Even in the case, you'll see in the wars between Russia and Ukraine, Ukraine does not have a nuclear weapon, Russia has it. But the taboo against using of nuclear weapon is so high, therefore even till date Russia has not been able to use its nuclear weapon. So therefore, if India has to conduct this strike, it could have used nuclear weapon, but it brings a lot of shame. So India is using a conventional bunker buster warhead that carries conventional explosive to destroy the target, and it will threaten hardened sites that were previously considered invulnerable by Pakistan. Meaning of stealth means you aren't able to detect those aircraft. Stealth aircraft basically won't be able to be detected by enemy radar systems. Right? Similarly, as it is a ballistic missile, and I've told you ballistic missiles, they travel out of the atmosphere, but when they make re-entry into the atmosphere before destroying the target, their terminal speeds are hypersonic in nature. So therefore it facilitates rapid response and precise delivery of targets, and it reduces the reaction time of enemy. Therefore they won't be able to defend against such missiles. Similarly, it offers better penetration as compared to GBU-57, and therefore we will be able to target nuclear bunkers and command centers of Pakistan or China if they are buried underground. And therefore it undermines the strategic depth of these countries and the deterrence capabilities of these countries. They have thought that when we have nuclear weapons, India won't be able to attack us. But now, after Operation Sindoor, India has established that we will be able to hit you hard, so much so that you will start crying. Similarly, the challenges of this missile that originally DRDO claims that Agni 5 missile can travel as far as 5,000 kilometers. But once it is carrying much higher amount of explosive, as much as 7,000 kilograms of conventional explosive, its range would be reduced to about half. But it will be still enough to cover entire Pakistan and key regional targets of China, and it is sufficient to reach and destroy critical infrastructure of these two countries. Understood why India is modifying one of its missiles, not developing a GBU-57 like US? Now, why has it rattled Pakistan? First of all, the novelty of innovation. You see, engineers, scientists of DRDO, they have been able to use existing resources at their disposal and modify it based on certain needs and circumstances. Therefore, it will be a first of kind conventional missile that has the capabilities and benefits of ballistic missile while ensuring deep penetrating ability. Similarly, it signifies a strategic shift from India's side. Earlier, India used to refrain from hitting Pakistan, but since Operation Sindoor, we have seen India is able to match Pakistan when it comes to moving up the escalation ladder. And while at the time, India will also ensure not to use its nuclear weapons. On the first hand, India subscribes to no first use policy. Therefore, India wouldn't initiate a nuclear attack on its own. Similarly, using existing resources, it is using conventional bombs to destroy the nuclear targets of Pakistan, effectively eliminating the advantage that Pakistan has when we follow NFU. Similarly, it also puts certain kind of challenges. First of all, there is a fear that suppose if India launches a Agni 5 missile, would Pakistan actually be in a place to know whether that Agni 5 missile is carrying a nuclear weapon or a conventional weapon? It won't be in a position. So there is a chance or there is a risk that this action might be misinterpreted by Pakistan, and Pakistan would consider India as attacking it with nuclear weapon and retaliate on its own. Because we understand when it comes to Pakistan, they are not very reasonable in nature. That is why it is their state today. Right? So, this is all that you needed to know. Let's see how many of you are able to solve this question quickly. Good morning, Yukta. Yes, Govind. Fees is 10,000 for gold batch, but in that you won't get mentorship, etc. or scholarship. Yes, it's C. It is a precision guided airdrop bunker buster bomb capable of penetrating deep underground facilities. Now, this is the kind of question that are asked in the exam. It was asked this year in 2025. You have to categorize these aircraft based on their type of roles. Yes. 1 and 2 are right. Dassault Rafale is a multi-role fighter aircraft, not a strategic bomber. So, option B is right. Good. Now, this is what it concerns you, Govind, right? This is the course that you can take admission on. You can use the code ATS Live. It will help you get as much as 7,000 rupees discount. Okay. And this is the fees that you need to pay after discounts. But you will get this rate only when you apply the code ATS Live. We are starting another batch from 8th of August. Okay, so if you want to take admission, if you're planning to give exams next year, this is the batch you can take. It is already late, we understand. So we'll try to cover it as soon as possible. Okay. Now moving to this next article. This article also I saw in the newspaper, but when I was shuffling through the newspapers, I was in hurry, so I was unable to find it. So I've taken the screenshot of the website. It says the disqualification of BRS MLAs are undergone. That is why Supreme Court has given Speaker 3 months of time to decide on their disqualification under the anti-defection law. Now, the Supreme Court has questioned the role of Telangana Speaker, who is delaying action for disqualification of BRS MLAs who have previously defected to Congress. And the Supreme Court has said that, asked the Speaker to follow its constitutional duties and disqualify these MLAs under the anti-defection law. So, what is anti-defection law? Why is it important? That becomes quite interesting for our today's discussion. Now, you understand what is a political defection, right? There is a phenomena known in the Indian politics known as phenomena of Ayaram Gayaram. So there was this former MP or MLA, I couldn't recall, his name was some Ram. So in the period of 24 hours, he changed his party 3 times. He went from one party to another, moved back to his parent party, and then went back to another party. So this was the kind of instances known as Ayaram Gayaram politics, where legislators who have been elected on a party ticket, they frequently change their parties and allegiances. And this, from democratic perspective, we understand this is a wrong practice. So to outlaw this practice, the government introduced anti-defection law, and it defines the act of political defection when an elected representative switches their allegiance from one political party to another or becomes an independent member, often for personal gain or political advantages. And this was introduced by 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1985, and this Amendment Act inserted a new schedule in the Constitution, that is 10th schedule. And the purpose of this schedule or this law is to curb the act of political defections and bring political stability, party discipline and accountability of legislatures to their political parties. Now, it also provides grounds based on which any legislature, if they change their party, would be disqualified. First of all, if they voluntarily resign from the party as an elected member, if they have been elected, say, on the ticket of party A, and if they resign from the membership of that party, they are subjected to be disqualified. Now, tell me, what if the party expels their legislature? Will they be subjected to anti-defection law? Let me know. So, if the party itself removes the elector or the legislator from their membership of that party, will they be subjected to anti-defection law? Similarly, if you vote or not vote against party direction, that is against party whip, and you are not able to explain the circumstances to the party within 15 days, you will also be disqualified. But if a party expels you, you won't be subjected to disqualification under the anti-defection law. Similarly, independent members, if they are elected to the house independently and if they decide to join any other party, they will be disqualified. Whereas nominated members, they are given an option to join another political party within 6 months. So within 6 months, if they join any political party, it's fine. But after 6 months, if they decide to join any other party, they will be disqualified under anti-defection law. Now, there are certain exemptions. First of all, if there is a political merger, suppose if there are 33 MPs or MLAs of a particular party, and out of 33, 2/3, that is 22, decide to change their party, then it will not be considered as a case of political defection. This is a exception that has been provided. Similarly, if you are elected as a presiding officer, that is Speaker of Lok Sabha or Speaker of Legislative Assembly, and if you decide to give up your party membership, this is also exempted, because Speaker is expected in law to follow the neutrality. So if the Speaker of Lok Sabha or the Legislative Assembly, if they resign from office or resign from their political party, then they won't be disqualified. Okay. Now, who decides how to disqualify, when to disqualify? It is the presiding officer of the house, Speaker for Lok Sabha, chairperson of Raj Sabha in case of Raj Sabha. And speaker or chairperson also has the rule making power. They can frame rules how to implement 10th schedule in the house and what will be the trigger for action. Can speaker on their own disqualify any member? The answer is no. Only when a formal complaint has been registered by any other member, then only you can initiate the proceedings. The speaker or the chairperson can't initiate the proceedings on their own, right? Now the next question is, what is a whip? Now whenever any decision is made by political party, it is also communicated to its members in a form of written document. This is called as party whip or party's direction. And if you violate the party whip, you will be subjected to disqualification under the Schedule 10. So if you have to vote yes for a bill, if you have to vote no for a bill, if there is an election for presiding officer, who you have to vote, all of this is determined by whip. And if you ignore this whip or if you go against this whip, you will be subjected to disqualification under 10th schedule. Now, what about, can courts interfere in this judicial proceed or in this anti-defection proceedings? What do you think so? Can courts in India interfere in anti-defection proceedings? So, if you look at the Constitution, Article 122 says that court cannot inquire in the validity of parliamentary proceedings, and this is also true with the rate of state legislature. So, prima facie you'll see that the courts can't interfere, but this is incorrect. Courts have a lot of powers. Sometimes they misuse that power, but in this case, as you'll understand, they have actually put a good use to their powers. For example, there was this case in 1992, Quixote Zolahan versus Zalichu case, which upheld the constitutional validity of 10th schedule. However, it ruled that speaker's decision is subjected to judicial review in cases of mala fide intention or perversity. Similarly, another case, Ravi S. Naik versus Union of India in 1994, here it says that even if you do not formally give the resignation, but you give adverse statements against the party, this is also can be seen as a involuntary resignation from the party, and therefore you will be able to subject it to disqualification, right? So even if in absence of a formal resignation, even if you go or give statements against the party line, this also can be interpreted as an act which will enable you to qualify under disqualification. Similarly, G. Vishwanathan versus Speaker of Tamil Nadu case, here the Supreme Court said that Speaker's authority is valid in this case and their decision cannot be questioned in the court of law unless he or she is biased in their conduct. Similarly, in 2020 judgment, Supreme Court directed that the Speaker can't sit on this decision indefinitely. He or she must make this decision whether to disqualify a candidate or not within 3 months period so as to prevent indefinite delays. So these are the instances where judiciary have exercised its power in a right manner to put a time limit on speaker so that they do not indefinitely delay this decision. Now, 2 questions have appeared in prelims. Let's solve them one by one. Let's see how many of you are able to answer this 2014 question. Mala fide intention means with wrong intention. Perversity means something I am doing the misconduct, right? Yes. No prices for guessing. I have repeated it multiple times. 10th schedule. Now this question appeared very recently. Whip basically means whip. So political parties whip their members into a particular direction, just like the horse rider whips their horses. A nominated legislature cannot join any political party within 6 months of being appointed to the house. Incorrect. The law does not provide any time frame within which the presiding officer has to decide a defection case. This is correct because the law hasn't provided any definite time frame, right? It is the Supreme Court that has provided a time frame of 3 months. So option B is right. Yes. Now moving up to the next article, this article talks about Prevention of Money Laundering Act and which body is responsible for investigation violation of PMLA Act, Enforcement Directorate, but we will cover today PMLA, okay. Now since 2015, Enforcement Directorate has registered almost 6,000 PMLA cases but is been able to secure only 15 convictions, raising the questions why is agency not performing well. Now in our today's discussion, we'll cover the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, which was introduced in January 2003 to prevent instances of money laundering. The objective of this act is to prevent and control money laundering in India, to enable the investigative agencies to confiscate and seize property that has been acquired through laundered money and address other related issue. We'll cover this in detail, no need to worry. Now, first of all, this act defines the act of money laundering. It states any person who is either directly or indirectly attempting, assisting or involved in handling the proceeds of crime which leads to emergence of money laundering. Similarly, and projects this money as an untainted property is guilty under this section of act. So, suppose if you undertake any criminal activity, you get money which obviously you can't deposit in the bank account. So, the proceeds of crime that helps you get money, and if you are trying to portray this money as a rightful money, this is an act of money laundering as defined under PMLA Act section 3. Now, suppose if you commit a murder and if you take a payment to commit that murder, obviously you can't deposit that money into the bank account. So, you'll use that money under certain circumstances that will help you portray that money as a rightful money. So, this is basically a part of money laundering. You wash that money hypothetically so as to clean that money, right? Now, the major provisions of this act, it obligates financial institutions like banks, NBFCs, etc. to first of all verify their client identity and maintain records of transactions and identities. That is why whenever you go to open a bank account, banks demand you to give your Aadhaar and PAN under the KYC, know your customer requirements. Similarly, it highlights the role of Enforcement Directorate, which investigates money laundering cases. It can attach property which it thinks is linked to proceeds of crime, and it functions as an economic law enforcement and intelligence agency. Similarly, there is an adjudicating authority which will confirm the attachment and confiscation of property, and if you are not happy with their decision, you can challenge it with appellate tribunal, which will hear the appeals against the decision made by adjudicating authority. Similarly, there is our special courts which are designed to handle such cases, and an international cooperation is also envisaged where central government may enter an agreement with foreign nations to implement PMLA provisions. Right? And money laundering is also a subject which FATF covers. Okay. Therefore, such bodies help you to cooperate with another countries. Other important facilities or provisions is that bailable provisions under section 45. This has been in news and this becomes very important. First of all, money laundering in India is not a bailable offense. Therefore, bail will not be a right of the accused, rather it will be at the discretion of the court, and court will only provide you bail in cases of money laundering if it is able to fulfill two conditions. First is that if court feels prima facie that you are not guilty of this money laundering. Second, court must believe that accused, if left out on bail, won't reoffend or tamper with the existing evidence, and only if these two conditions are fulfilled, then only you will be provided the bail. Now, this was actually struck down by the court, but government again introduced it using 2018 amendment. So, even today, if you're accused of money laundering and if you're put in jail, you'll have to fulfill these two criteria before you can get bail. Similarly, recent amendments have been made. For example, in 2013, it brought several other offences under the provision of PMLA Act. For example, National Drug and Psychotropic Substances Act. So, suppose if you're involved in drug trade, obviously the money that you're making out of that drug trade will be legal money. So, to use that money in normal circumstances, you'd require to launder that money. Therefore, all of these crimes have been attached as a reason of money laundering. Similarly, it empowered ED to arrest even without the need of warrant. In 2018, it allowed ED to confiscate equivalent assets from abroad if the proceeds of crime has been invested outside India, and it also expanded the definitions of proceeds of crime, which enabled you to generate illegal money or black money. In 2019, the amendment to PMLA was made as a standalone offense. So, even if you're not committing a crime that leads to generation of black money, you can be persecuted for PMLA just because you have in your possession black money. And it empowered ED to share information with other law enforcement agencies, and it widened the scope, which included crimes that can be led to money laundering, that is concealment of black money, possession of black money, acquisition and use of black money also would entitle you to be subject of this particular act. Also, it extended powers to ED, like ED can summon and take statements of people who are responsible in the case, accused and related personnel. It can conduct search and seizure using raids in the premises and seize property and documents which it feels is important to the case. It can arrest people, as I've told you, even without the warrant, but it has to provide in writing the reasons why it is arresting the people. Similarly, it can provisionally attach certain properties before the court, saying that this property is gathered by the accused by the use of black money. It can file an ECIR, that is an EFIR in the cases, though it is not shared with the accused, upheld in this case particularly. Similarly, it can also take help from other agencies on request from foreign countries and send requests for attachment of properties even if it is located outside India. So these are the wider powers that has been given to ED, but it's sorry to see that ED has not been able to make the best out of it, right? Now let's see how many of you are able to solve this particular question. ED is not a judicial body, it is a investigative authority like NIA, like what you can say CBI, etc., right? Second is correct. Yes, this is correct. This is incorrect. Only if they directly handle the proceeds of crime and portray them as an untainted property, incorrect. Even if they are complicit in this act, they can also be prosecuted under this act. So second and third is right. So first one is not. Option B is your right answer. Yes. Now it's only 11:53. I had prepared another article, right? But I did not include it in the slide, thinking that it will stretch beyond 1 hour. So let's end our today's session. You can download the notes on this slide. We'll cover the rest of the articles tomorrow. Okay. So have a good day. Bye bye.